I want to talk about alternative lifestyles. Now, I'm not talking about dating or relationship lifestyles like the poly, gay, trans. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about alternative lifestyles to making a living, right? So, for me, I grew up and was raised around traditional work at a plant, work there for a long time, get pensions, retirement, that kind of thing. And so, what that did to me mentally is conditioned me to say, if it's not that, it's not working. If it's not that, it's not safe. So I did have a father who did work there, but then he was also let go too. A lot of times these corporations will lay you off for budget reasons. And I've seen it before. Wasn't quite sure it would ever happen to me, but I did prepare for that because of who I study. I prepared for it regardless of how I felt about it, because I thought that, shoot, at this age, that'd be a good thing for me to have. And it was. But it also makes me think about other people who live in alternative lifestyles, and as far as like where they live, how they live, apartment, house, is my dad saying you need to get a house, you need to get a house, you need to get a house. However, his house was not paid off at the time of his death. Okay, so I have unanswered questions there that I'll probably will never get answered. I could try and surmise what happened, but I'll never have answered questions there. And then I met other people at camp who are full-time RVers. And I'm thinking to myself, well, how does that work? How do you afford that? Do you still go to work? And on top of that, people are working in alternative fields of work that I'd never heard of before and are doing all right. And it just really makes me question a lot of things. Of course, my dream is to do music production, engineering, and I have a little bit of mental cognizance there, cognitive, whatever. I'd like to do that for work full time. And I think that because I've been so conditioned into the traditional 9-to-5 way of living and making work happen, it almost prevented me, or I have to rethink how do I approach it more seriously, because I didn't see Dad do it. So I just wonder about how do people make things work as a full-time RVer. What are the pros and cons? What are the pros and cons of owning a house? Yeah, you own a house, but you gotta have a job to pay for that house, and you gotta generate income to pay for that house anyway, whether you're financing it or you buy it cash. I personally rather buy it cash. I'd rather do that than finance a house. But at this age, you're thinking you're supposed to have all this stuff done. I know people at 30 probably had that same feeling. But there's just a big world out there. Money flows from hand to hand, however you get it. Let's talk about it like, say, strippers, right? Strippers, from my perspective, I don't know what but it seems like to me, you might have seen these memes, right? Where the car dealer says a stripper comes in with no credit check with 7,000 cash, and like, yeah, let's do this. So, but I don't know if that's the experience of every stripper. But that's an alternative way to make money, right? Or you're a mechanic, or just these alternate. It's just there's such a big world that I don't see. Well, all these DoorDashes and Ubers and all these other tasks where people are making money to survive, because government jobs aren't always guaranteed. And that's crazy, because I just came from a situation and I wasn't even an employee there. However, the job went away. But not only for me, perhaps, but for many others who were in very established executive directors and executives were getting let go. And it's funny, it's like makes you wonder who, and then I wonder who decides who stays and who goes, and who gets to sleep at night knowing that they altered someone's life. So my faith was not really that high in corporate. But then again, I see people living very well. Like I see people drive Jeeps. So I imagine if you're driving a Jeep, you probably make some good money because those Jeeps are not cheap. And it just really makes me question a lot of things. And once again, it makes me wonder, where do I fit in this equation? Life is hard, but when you're working like a regular 9 to 5, that's like one less thing to think about. You know where you're supposed to be. You know what you're supposed to do. You know the challenges that come with it. And you do it, and you don't even have to think. You don't even have to think, because you're only, you don't have to worry about your direction. You know that the check will come in with such amount of money, which means you know how to create a budget around that income. There's a lot but there's so many ways to do this. So how do you survive? So I'm just questioning a lot of things, trying a lot of things. People got to survive one way or another. Churches, pastors, it seems like a very lucrative thing to be a pastor, it seems like to me. But not all of them are like that. The ones that you don't see on YouTube in the storefront, probably still working 9 to 5. But the mega church pastors we like to watch, yeah. That's all. We'll talk more about that. This is the vlog, just talking. See y'all in the next video.